Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us today at the EA training session. Okay, so topic at hand, how do you stay the most hated company in the world? It's quite easy. Number one, it's a two-pronged strategy by the way. First thing you do, create a Star Wars game, Star Wars Battlefront 2, right? Sells terribly, everyone hates it, right? You become more of a hated company. Second strategy, cancel future Star Wars games. Cancel them, they were never coming out, right? But then people start talking about it, Reddit and such. People hate the company because of it more, right? Both these strategies should then create some synergy. Both those strategies working together, people hate the company more. A lot of talk starts happening, right? A lot of talk. Hate the company, microtransactions suck, EA sucks, great. With these two strategies, you should be able to accomplish your main goal of becoming the most hated company in America. And if that happens, it's just the tip of the iceberg. I hope everyone enjoyed my acting. You talking to me? You talking to me?
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
No.
That was pathetic.
I was so sweaty, oh my god, I shouldn't have worn that jumper, everybody. It's good to see everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Love you, appreciate you. We're back again to talk about our favourite people in the world.
I feel like EA sat in a boardroom meeting and they're like, we're seriously losing in the most hated company in America stakes to Bethesda and Activision right now. We need to up our game.
They need to do something.
And some enterprising young executive said, how about we take from people the one thing they were actually excited about?
Yeah.
And Andrew Wilson was like,
I like it.
excellent. So here's the detail. Let's take it back to the very start.
Sure.
Okay.
In the beginning.
Back in the olden days, there used to be lots of Star Wars games from lots of different developers and publishers.
Sure.
Because they all used to be able to bid for, the Star Wars license and make a game. So that's why you had Republic Commando from one developer and publisher, and you had KOTOR from another, and you had like Rogue Squadron and that sort of shit. All these great games that popped up along the years. Because it wasn't under one publisher all the time.
Yeah, once upon a time, there just used to be Star Wars single-player games in general, for God's sakes. There was literally
Shadows
not
of the Empire.
one. That was such a good game on 64.
That was a great game.
Such a good game.
Those were the glory days. It was a more civilized age back then, okay? What happened until the arrival of the Emperor Disney, right? And then they bought Star Wars, and then they said, what we're going to do, instead of doing all that with all that fuss, we're just going to give it to one company that we trust, and they're going to make all the Star Wars games going forward.
Yeah.
EA won the exclusive rights to make Star Wars games.
I hear a new apprentice you have, Emperor.
And it was a multi-year exclusive agreement where they're going to be able to produce a number of games, and no one else in the world could make Star Wars games.
That is like the jackpot. I can't think of a better
Absolute
IP
jackpot.
for video games to own exclusively than Star Wars.
And FIFA, which ironically enough, EA also owns.
Yeah,
and it's
lol.
like basically the rock on which the house was built.
Totally.
Anyway, obviously it's been a disaster. Star Wars Battlefront 2, complete clusterfuck of a game. We owe our entire success on YouTube to Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Thank God, we love you, Andrew Wilson.
So
we love
thank
you
very
EA.
much. We love you, loot
Star
boxes.
Wars, really?
We love all those things. That's right.
Totally.
So that was the first thing. After that, we learned that Amy Hennig, who was formerly of Naughty Dog, who helped lead Uncharted, and also was one of the creative directors on Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver, one of my favorite games ever.
Totally.
She's a fucking genius. She's amazing. She was making a single-player Star Wars game with Visceral Studios. Turns out that EA were not happy with that, and they closed. They basically ended development of the game, and they shuttered Visceral Studios. Gone completely.
One of the things they said was, FIFA's making us $1 billion a year in revenue. Where's your model for that? That just shows how EA's and the way that they think is so fucked up.
Correct.
They can't just have one game making $1 billion, which they shouldn't anyway. FIFA is terribly monetized, but anyway, they need to have all the games doing the same crummy shit.
They want loot box FIFA Ultimate packs in a single player Star Wars game. So basically Shadow of the Empire meets FIFA Ultimate Team. They're make that for us, Amy. And Amy's like, huh.
Nani. Yeah. Look.
Shut your fucking mouth!
Out of the ashes of Visceral, they would be working on a new single-player open-world Star Wars game. So they said that the normal single-player linear Star Wars game that Amy was doing was not good enough for EA, because they think single-player games are dead. So they said, let's make it an open-world game instead, and who knows, they probably would have tried to stuff some multiplayer into it. I don't know.
Totally.
Today we learned that project has been
officially gone.
This reporting comes from who else? Jason Schreier,
Good old
Kotaku, who has spoken to 3 people familiar with it. This guy is very, very rarely wrong. So while EA hasn't confirmed it yet, there's a very good chance this guy is right. Because he's always right. And he's confirmed that 3 people have said that this project no longer exists. And that's it. No Star Wars game from EA Motive.
Yeah, and yet again, I mean, there's just not a moment that goes by that EA doesn't confirm once again, A, they're not listening to the consumer, and B, they just don't give a fuck. You know, like, number one, God of War was a perfect example of last year, out of many other single-player games, that single-player, it was not dead, okay? It can still win goddamn Game of the Year, and it can still revolutionize the whole industry. For them to come out again and cancel can you think of anything else they're really making that people were excited for?
Well, they do have another Star Wars game being developed by Respawn. So that's one, I think it's called Fallen Order.
Sure, okay,
that's
fine.
one thing that we can be hopeful for, but then again, it's under EA, so I have no hope.
But my point really is there's not enough IP in the melting pot for them just to start cancelling shit because it might not make enough money. Like, I just thought by now they'd be like, you know what, we're making enough money, let's just actually rebuild the brand and get in touch with Star Wars fans again, but they're not doing it.
I don't know what's happening. It seems our profits have dropped 37%.
I'm afraid we have a bad image, sir. Market research shows people see you as something of an ogre.
I ought to club them and eat their bones.
I just wonder, like, how hard... I know developing games is hard. Don't get me wrong. I know it's a hard thing.
Give me a sweat patch, by the way.
No, it's really gross. I'm looking at you sweating
I'm
over
so
there.
sweaty, oh my god. I don't know why Ralph isn't so goddamn sweaty, but anyway. So
it's Australia. It's because I'm not a disgusting pig. Anyway.
I feel like Jabba the Hutt. Anyway.
So, I know it's hard to make games. Don't get me wrong. But... I just feel like of all the potential games that you could make, an open world Star Wars game would be one that would be... The odds would really be stacked in your favor.
Totally.
You really just need to sort of make, let's say, like a Mass Effect game in the Star Wars universe that brings together some cool Jedi moments and
or
some
even
cool
Destiny.
Sith stuff.
Destiny would be fantastic.
Well, you've just triggered a lot of people, right?
I mean,
there.
it's
You just
true
triggered a lot
though.
of
It's
people.
honestly true. They could make a console, maybe a looter shooter kind of thing with the Star Wars universe. It would go gangbusters.
You're really hurting a lot of people's feelings.
But it's
right now.
true though.
I'm disassociating myself from Sam's comments.
No, I'm just saying in terms of like ways that they can make.
There's lots of ways you could go.
Exactly right. That's what I'm really trying to say.
So, as I said, I know games development isn't easy, but I do feel as though you've got a good chance of success here. And I wonder what it takes for EA to fuck that up. I really wonder what kind of like restrictions were they putting on this developer? Like, what were they asking them to do? Because surely if you put a bunch of nerds in a room who all know how to make video games, they're probably going to come up with a good idea for an open world Star Wars game.
Totally.
And I really believe that EA is probably the deciding factor in all of this that says, well, that's probably not going to make us $1 billion, so fuck it, we don't want to do that.
Totally.
Project. Do you know what I mean? Like, and they'd rather, put that team on a new fucking sports game or some bullshit microtransaction mobile game. Do you know what I mean?
Again, it's such a short-sighted way of looking at things, there is a lot of money to be made in Star Wars, and I think time and time again now we've seen Star Wars Battlefront 1 come out, it wasn't ultimately a good game. Number 2 came out, it was a good game, but the microtransactions were so fucked up. You'd think by now they might have tweaked, the fine-tuning to understand what they need to deliver, and they're clearly, again, not doing that. If they brought out a fantastic single-player experience that was light on the microtransactions, not everyone, but a lot of people would have a shorter memory with EA. Not that they wouldn't forget what they've done, but they would start to maybe look at them in a bit nicer way. You know what I mean?
I do agree.
That's what they need to be doing, everybody.
Either way, it's not happening yet. There's no Star Wars game coming anytime soon from EA. As I said, Fallen Order from Respawn is on the way, but it's unlikely to be this year. We don't know what form that game's going to be. We're assuming a first-person shooter, similar to sort of like the old, Jedi Outcast, Jedi Order games, whatever. But, we don't know that. It's just purely guessing at this point. Either way, fuck you, EA. You've taken another Star Wars game and you've put it in the trash for God knows what reason. And it's so disappointing. Disney, if you're watching this video, please cancel the exclusive agreement.
Disney, what are you doing?
EA have proven time and time again they're incapable of managing this license.
100%.
We need to go back to a model where multiple developers have access to this IP. Because keeping it under the yoke of EA's tyranny is just the worst decision.
Not to mention, there's very few IPs that are that work so well together with the fan base and gaming community, if that makes sense.
It's the perfect intersection.
Yeah, it really is, because Star Wars fans usually are gamers, for God's sakes, and you can't, Disney cannot look at this situation and not think that it's damaging the Star Wars brand in general when games are coming out under that license, and they're fucking abysmal, Of course it pisses people off when they think of Star Wars, alright? I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm like, Andrew Wilson, Star Wars! It hurts the soul. So please, Disney, if you're listening, please do something about it.
Man. So that's the end of the episode, guys. I look forward to Sam editing this in post when he sees how shiny his face has been the entire time as it's been streaming with sweat.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
It's like 40 degrees in
His hair
Australia.
is literally soaked, and he now stinks of BO. I need to get the fuck off this couch. Ladies and gentlemen, we're done.
Appreciate you.